Brett.
More than
People
70% of people tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
All right, Kamala Harris is in full panic mode with her campaign recently, especially now that the polls have tightened. Ever since then, she's desperately doing anything to get voters and trying to do interviews left and right. They went from doing no interviews to basically one every day, and it's completely exposing her. Let's listen to her crumble as she's asked the tough questions from media that won't coddle her campaign.
That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade,
But
people
you're the
have
lever of
become.
power.
But listen, over the last decade, it is clear to me, and certainly the Republicans who are on stage with me, the former chief of staff to the president, Donald Trump, former defense secretaries, national security advisor, and his vice president. One, that he is unfit to serve, that he is unstable, that he is dangerous, and that people are exhausted with someone who professes to be a leader who spends full time demeaning and engaging in personal grievances and it being about him instead of the American people. People are tired of that.
If that's the case, why is half the country supporting him? Why is he beating you in a lot of swing states? Why, if he's as bad as you say, that half of this country is now supporting this person who could be the 47th president of the United States? Why is that happening?
This is an election for president of the United States. It's not supposed to be easy.
She's completely unprepared to answer the American people on why, under her and Joe Biden administration, so many people are dissatisfied. She never answers the question and brings up Trump. The Democrats continue to run their campaigns over and over again with the slogan, "What about Trump?" instead of taking responsibility for their own administration. They continue to point the finger and play the blame game, and if they lose this election to me, that is their downfall.
No answer for why Biden and Harris threw out Donald Trump's executive orders and changed everything, and then a flood of people came in. An ounce of humility here would go a long way, and she doesn't have it in her to do it, and she has no real answer other than to blame Congress. And Brett was right. Democrats controlled everything when they took over, and so is she saying it's the Democrats' fault that the immigration system is broken? I don't understand this. I don't understand why she can't just say, hindsight here, we shouldn't have done it. I think the American people would actually accept it, but she won't do it.
She's clearly trying to reach black men. Do you think her efforts are going to make a difference?
No, I don't, and for a number of reasons. Number one, this is the same Kamala Harris where a few years ago she's out there saying that the audio clips are available, the video clips, where there was no agenda for black people.
So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people. No.
She actually said that what works for all Americans will also work for black people.
Any policy that will benefit black people will benefit all of society. Let's be clear about that. Let's really be clear about that.
But now she's going to reverse course because she's losing in this race and try to say she's going to do an agenda specifically for black men. I just don't think it's going to work. Number two, she's basically had 1,400 days to enact all these types of policies, and she's done nothing. Actually not even spoke to any of these things. But now that we're 20 days until November 5th, now she wants to run out there with a specific agenda. Everybody knows it's phony and it's fake. It's pandering. It's just politics, and it's not real. At the end of the day, what black men are looking for, like all men in our country and all people, is an economic agenda that actually works to helping you grow your wages, have prices be stable, be able to build wealth, and to pass something on to the next generation. And it is crystal clear if you compare Kamala Harris's economic record to Donald Trump's economic record, that when Donald Trump was president, wages adjusted for inflation were significantly higher. People were able to save more, people were able to buy a home, and people were able to start building wealth. The Kamala Harris economic agenda has not been good for any American, including black men.
Harris has always leaned heavily on image and optics rather than substance. But with the polls closing in, Voters are starting to demand more. Her speeches and public appearances are starting to sound more frantic, more defensive, and less confident than ever before. It's clear that she's feeling the heat. At the end of the day, Kamala's panicking because she knows that if the polls keep tightening, her path to the presidency is looking a lot shakier. She's struggling to connect with voters. Her policy positions are out of touch with what people care about, and her track record isn't giving her any favors. And as the election draws closer, her campaign is feeling the pressure like never before.
There's a lot of people that look back at what you said in 2019 when you first ran for president. And there have been changes, and you've talked about some of them. When it comes to immigration, you supported allowing immigrants in the country illegally to apply for driver's license, to qualify for free tuition at universities, to be enrolled in free health care. Do you still support those things?
Listen, that was 5 years ago, and I'm very clear that I will follow the law. I have made that statement over and over again, and as Vice President of the United States, that's exactly what I've done, not to mention before.
If that's the case, you chose a running mate, Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota, who signed those very things into state law. So do you support that?
We are very clear, and I am very clear, as is Tim Walz, that we must support and enforce federal law, and that is exactly what we will do.
To be fair to Kamala, whoever told her to do this interview should be fired immediately. But this is what panic looks like. She's losing her base and can only really run on one issue, which is abortion. So she has to do desperate interviews like this one. Watch this clip. Once Democrats saw this, they immediately started to panic and tried to do a media blitz.
Sometimes there's a trend line. You know, I look at the polls all the time, and sometimes there's a trend line that I never noticed before and make me go, whoa. This is one of them, all right? This is the Democratic margin among black men under the age of 45 in presidential elections. You go back to November of 2012, what do you see? You see Obama by 81. Clinton only won him by 63. Then we're all the way down to Biden last time around by 53. A tremendous drop already. And then you take a look at the average of the most recent polls, and Kamala Harris is up by only 41 points. That is about half the margin that Obama won them by back in November of 2012. And this, I think, is, you know, when Barack Obama goes in last week when he was in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, essentially talking to young black men, he made it seem like it was a Kamala Harris specific problem. This is part of a long-standing trend of young black men moving away from the Democratic Party, and Kamala Harris is just the latest to face that magnitude of younger black men going towards the Republicans.
That was what's most interesting here is the trend line and where some of the biggest drops happened or already happened in this case.
Let us know what you think about Kamala's media blitz in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe.